Welcome to Between the Rig, a podcast hosted by Pushbox CrossFit. We're all about fitness and bringing you direct opinions wrapped in humor and a touch of, did they really just say that? We aim to help you understand more about coaching, gym ownership, and what it takes to get the most out of your fitness, mindset, and lifestyle, both inside and outside the gym. Let's get into it. All right, team, welcome back to Between the Rig. It's a podcast hosted by Pushbox CrossFit, and we have Adam back, but we traded Josh for Sarah. Hello.
Hey.
It's a nice trade. I feel like you would have helped into the back end of the last podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about menstrual cycles. So,
do you want to start there?
At any point you want to chime in?
No,
let us know. If
I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah. Okay, no. I like that we all did our hair for this podcast.
Yeah. Freshly
nailed it.
shaved.
Yeah. Good job, us. Yeah. Welcome, guys. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Let's just chat. Let's get cozy. Let's talk about that sweet fitness.
It's a Saturday. Just got wrecked during comp training.
Oh, my gosh.
So
Brutal.
Took this one off.
Just
I listened to my body
slap
today.
to the throat.
Smart. Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
I was going to, and then I didn't. I was like, you know what? You're fine.
It is funny sometimes watching just the numbers go down on like the morning of, especially on a weekend. It's like backlisted. Everyone's like, am I going to get in? And then with like 4 people on the wait list, and then we still had 1 spot remaining this morning. I'm like, just let the Friday and the week creep in.
Yeah.
And the decisions on Friday night. And then all of a sudden, you'll check those early lifters and fitness makers. It goes down a little bit.
I think, the weather was nice yesterday. People after my 5:30 class were like, let's go get beers. And I'm like, you should do that. And then they were like, we're not coming to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens. How are we feeling?
Each their own.
How are you feeling, Sarah?
Rested.
It's been like 9 hours since I've seen you. How you doing?
I feel rested.
Good.
Actually. Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. We want to kind of go over a couple things. We got a couple good questions from some members, which I thought were great, which I think kind of we can find an easy way to segue into that. And I would love to chat with you two about your experience recently, the past L2 seminar. But first, let's start with the question. This is more my question, right? I mean, I've gotten this from other people, but it's not like an important one. But just kind of what's new in your life when it comes to maybe health and fitness things you are starting to add in or take away? Anything new? We could talk like, oh, I'm getting back into prep cooking meals. I'm trying new shoes. I'm sleeping differently. I'm wearing an Oura ring. Whatever. Is there anything new? Just
I feel
kind of
like there's always something new. Always.
What's the newest thing for you?
The new. I don't know. There's a handful. I
Just
think
one.
like. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
just one.
just throw one out there.
Shoot.
Yeah. It's recording.
Been sleeping with mouth tape.
Mouth tape. Oh.
Are you a
Wow.
mouth breather at night?
I feel like maybe I am. I don't know. Word has it that I've snored.
Okay. Yeah. How's it going?
Before. Maybe not.
Word on the other,
not
other
every
side
time.
of
The
the
other
bed street.
side of the bed, yeah.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going really well. They say that you feel more rested waking up. I think that's true. I did forget it one night, and I felt less rested. I don't know if it was because I heard that you feel less rested or because I actually was
Has
less
it ever
rested.
been off when you've woken up? Like, because I would feel like I've wanted to try it out, but I'd be so panicked. I'd be the one time it'd be like stuck to my beard and I can't like breathe. I very like collapsed like nostrils, so I'd be very panicky.
That was my little brother. So he snores terribly. Actually grinds his teeth horribly as well, but like is a mouth breather at night.
Sounds like the worst.
Snores just awful. He's a great human being, but I was like, you should try mouth tape. And his wife is a nurse practitioner, and she taped his mouth, but like not just like a little strip, like you're just supposed to
Like duct tape, like kidnap style.
She like X'd his mouth and
Oh,
like
God.
taped his beard, and so like the next morning taking it off was like
That's
pulling
not in the
hair
manual.
out of
That's
no.
not how you're supposed to do it.
And I was like, no, like, and I had to be like, no, you're supposed to like just put a little piece there, like just close it down.
Poquito.
Like,
I
it's
go
just like
full.
yeah, it's just supposed to like
Yeah.
be a
Like
reminder.
Joker style, just
Yeah.
like
I go full.
Nice.
like
Yeah.
lobe
Straight
to
across.
lobe. Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it?
I did it in the past a little bit, and recently I picked it back up probably like 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. I do notice like if I'm sick and congested, I start to breathe through my mouth and like my mouth gets dry, and then
for
I also
sure.
sleep horribly. Like I'm like, I woke up and I'm fucking terrible. So, but I'm normally like a nasal breather when I sleep. I don't have to have that issue.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
I have like one collapsed nostril. I feel like I wake up every day of my life with like 5 cotton balls in my mouth. I'm like, let's start the day, team. Just
Yeah, terrible.
over and over.
Terrible.
Yeah, but when Kilo does it next to me, I'm like, oh, figure it out.
Why are
What about you,
snoring?
buddy?
Do you
And-
snore? Trish, does Aiden snore?
Trish could sleep through anything going on. I think we're both aggressive mouth breathers. Maybe you call that snoring. Luna definitely reminds me whenever we go on like a trip for her like volleyball and it's like far away. She's like, "Is this gonna be a 1-room thing?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh,
we're
okay.
not getting you your own room." She's like, "Okay, well, sometimes you make noise." I'm like, "Okay, sometimes you don't do the dishes." So like, we got to figure it out.
Eye for an eye.
Yeah, like, yeah, I think so because I have a hard time breathing through my nose.
Yeah.
What's new
That
with you?
sucks. You know, I've been on the like less alcohol train for a while.
That's what's
I've been
up.
pretty good about it. Special occasion stuff, like I'll have like, oh, we're out and about, and I'll have like a beer, you know, but that's about
Yeah.
it, you know.
Nice.
Nothing really new. Like I've got, I'm not gonna say most of my shit dialed in, but like it's pretty well dialed in to where like I feel good. My diet's on, you know, point for the most part.
Nice.
My training has been lacking. I will say that. I've actually been going the other way, so which sucks. I hate it.
But you look great.
You know, it's work.
But rehab stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I'm rehabbing a
Yeah.
bicep.
But I'll say what I've noticed about you is like you definitely feel like I feel like you've had just a run of luck of just like getting hit by cars or bicep or this and that. But you
Jesus
also
Christ.
just don't go to like a, well, that's it. Like you're doing your Sorensen holds and Copenhagen planks and the things that maybe not, you know, is not fun or sexy. But
No.
like, I got to do something.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
I
in
need a
there.
break in life from, so like I
Absolutely.
still want to go into the gym.
Yeah,
So
I still
hats
show
off.
up. I think a lot of people, they fall in that like,
Yeah.
you know, spiral down the drain type shit where it's like, oh, I'm injured and like I can't do anything. It's like, actually, there's a
You just
ton
can't
of
do clean and jerks.
I
That's it.
can't.
Right,
Yeah, like I'm not gonna do bar muscle ups. I'm not gonna, you know, like do these high dynamic, like really aggressive movements. I'm gonna like do step ups. I'm gonna, you know, put a vest on and like do some other shit. You know,
There you go.
challenge myself other ways, rehab some certain things that maybe I've been lacking.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm okay. You know, I would like to train more.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I've been lately, where I'm like, work's gotten in the way, mostly just because I'm at the office a lot more. Don't have time to like get my, you know, 10 plus hours a week in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sarah, we got a case of who wore it better. I noticed we're wearing the same
You guys look great.
same hoodie.
Yeah. She rolled the sleeves, cuffed the sleeves, which I like.
did.
Oh,
I
nice.
did.
Yeah, it's cute.
You know,
Man, you
adding
didn't
a
tell
little
me that.
touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually said something when you guys were walking up. I was like, I don't have a push hoodie.
Yeah.
So, but I did my first comp 4 push, so I should be getting a push comp.
There we
hoodie.
go.
Or it's
All right.
crew neck.
Let me
Yeah.
know the size. Yeah, I this might be a real hot take for some listening. I am whoopless. You are now the team manager, Adam.
I'm now admin.
I have
I was
no
about ready
more
to
whoop.
delete everybody the other day, just for fun.
Just for shits and
Just for
gigs.
just
Like,
like-
you gave the wrong
Yep.
person power.
Nuclear destruct button.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I this is what I do in life. I've noticed it could be like video games, could be habits, could be shows, could be things I wear, whatever. I'm just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Just I came downstairs. I was like, Trish, I think I'm done with Whoop. Should I cancel this? She's like, I don't care. I was like, okay. And then I just did like that day. And they went through the whole like, are you sure? 50% off, more and more. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah. I was 1,599 days in.
Couldn't quite get that 1600 day.
Well, that's my favorite number.
Oh.
1,599. So I figured might as well stop there.
Didn't you say 387 the other day or something? I don't know. I heard you 186. You told somebody it was 186 the other day. I've been paying
No, that was
attention
just
to
a
all of your
bold-faced
favorite
lie.
numbers.
But
So that way
1,599 is for sure my favorite
I can
number.
definitely steal all your passwords at some point.
No, I think I was just kind of like, and anyone who's wearing a Whoop, I bet they're like, oh my God, wait, what's going on? It's like, nope, nothing. I've had it for 5 years.
It's a long time.
The data that I was very curious about, I'm a very much creature of habit person. And so I think it just came to a point I was like, let me try it. Like I still have it. I can like re-up it. But I was like, okay, like I understand what I do that makes me do this and that. And I don't know if it's just like, if I need to be spending the money on that, I could be now doing it on like, I don't know, something like, I don't know, I'm just thinking outside the box, rad shoes, maybe the next drop. Something like that.
Surprise.
Yeah.
He would never. He
Yeah.
would never-
So I'm
yeah.
thinking, I got to play the long game in my rad investment here.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just want to try it out there. And I will say it's like, I didn't think I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get real itchy and just miss it. But like, no, it's been good.
I,
And I didn't like feeling obligated to like the green or the yellow or the red. I'm like, oh great, my day's gonna suck now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to also, like, the reason I got it was for data and curiosity of stuff. And now I'm trying to not use it for the same thing, in the sense of more like really listen to your body. Do you feel good? Yes, train. Like you, Sarah, were like, I feel a little off today. I'm not going to. It's like, cool. Like, you don't need to look at a watch for that.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying it out.
I got rid of mine after my bike accident 2 years ago.
Yeah. But I long conned you. I said, you should get it back. You're like, all right. And now you're the team manager.
Fuck.
And now you can't quit because people need that team. So
Yeah.
huzzah. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the L2 seminar. That was something you guys just went through. And I'd love to just kind of hear your guys' experience with that. I can like reflect upon mine. I mean, we're kind of talking in the car. I think like we have almost between us three, like 40 years of PT and training and coaching experience. And so I think I'd love to also break through some of the narratives or fears that other coaches may have about doing it. I think sometimes doing tests and seminars and being judged feels very scary. Or, oh my gosh, but let's say I don't pass. Do I lose all credibility in the community, and do I lose doubt myself? And so it's always sometimes I feel like people won't do things just to at least avoid that. But I am definitely someone who always re-drinks the Kool-Aid of just coaching and learning and bettering myself when I do these things. So what I find very unique about the L2 is I feel like it's, and for context, those who are listening, the L1's kind of like, hey, welcome to CrossFit, right? And you need it if you want to coach and all this and that. But the L2 is like, all right, now we're going to like refine coaching for coaches. And it's going to be a lot of hands-on and like stand up, do this, role play, you coach this movement, you teach that, fix this, and things like that. And I'd love to hear more about the details in a second. But I think it was really cool and unique in the sense that I think when you do like NASM and ACE and all that stuff, it's a lot of like, I'm going to study for this test. I'm now going to take this test. Do I remember how to regurgitate that information? And do I make sense of it? This is very cool. It's like, oh, I'm going to physically get up and go through the motions of coaching and have that be refined. So I thought that's really cool. Congrats. You guys just obviously smoked that. So I'd love to know, did you guys have any initial, like, I wonder what this is going to be like? I'm curious, or expectations. And then was it better, worse, the same, different, anything?
Do you want to go? I'll go. It was better than I thought.
Ooh.
Like, I will say that. I've been in the CrossFit world for a while. Like, I think we were talking in the car. I think I got my L1 back in like 2007, 2008, maybe. There was like one CrossFit gym in Kansas City at the time. And that was kind of I will say my L1 was kind of a shit show. Like,
really,
you know, just like it was a
from
ton
you to
of,
them, or from them to,
I
they're
think-
big. I mean, mine was 50 people.
I had, I think, close to that, maybe more. It was huge, and it was just like this kind of like herding cats thing, like trying to get people to move that didn't understand these movements. Some people were like 2 weeks into CrossFit and were like, I'm taking my L1, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they're like, I'm the coach. And I'm like, should you be?
Maybe.
You know? Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the earlier, like, can you really just learn in 2 days kind of
Yeah, absolutely.
bullshit about outsiders judging this and that. And
Absolutely.
for some, you can see that. But for also some, like, I took my L1 later into my training and coaching career. So it was more like, I need to go through this to do this thing. But, like, it makes sense.
Yeah. You could tell they really refined this down. It was a very small group. There was only like 21 of us.
Okay.
So it was, yeah, something like that.
How many red shirts did you guys have?
3.
Okay.
And they did great. And it was very like, we are going to judge the shit out of you. And
Wow.
it was great. Like, I even at one point interrupted a class or like a talk and was
Sounds
like,
about right.
always.
Yeah.
And
On par.
on par. And I was like, I appreciate getting torn apart, where like normally as coaches, we don't get somebody eyes on us all the time. And so I was like, I really appreciate that, where they made somebody just drill me on one thing. And the girl finally was like, it's half an inch. Like, is this a big deal? And she's like, no, not really. But in this context of,
Yeah, size matters.
yeah, always. You
Yeah.
know, we're looking for depth.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. Depth? There's depth? I made this all wrong.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
And you know, it's that where we're like, she just was hounding me on this, and the girl finally was like, it's such a small like thing in this grand scheme of what's happening in this room full of a lot of people. But she's like, no, but like, we want to correct it so he can feel this. And I was like, yeah, I actually appreciate this, you know, and some people appreciated it and other people did not.
Oh yeah, that's going to be one of my questions in a second. I want to hear Sarah's response, but I feel like all the seminars I've been to, there's always like at least that one person you're like, you're probably great, but I fucking hate you. You're that person. Like, everyone's shit stinks. It's okay to take feedback. This is not meaning you're horrible and you should sell your gym or you should stop being a coach. It just means be open to feedback. If anyone thinks they're perfect, like, oh, did at any point you request for them to use bigger words?
No.
Okay, so it made sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay. That peasant talk, you know what I mean?
But that's also something. They're like, Adam, use less words. And I'm like, I do need to use less words,
like,
right?
what?
Like, I need to be able to be more concise with a lot of things. And this has been a struggle for me, even when I started my own practice and like got into, you know, being a chiropractor. And it was just like, I'm using all these big words because that's how I talk normally. And I'm like, ooh, I need to learn how to like bring this down a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was nice to like get that feedback, even though I was like, I already know.
Yeah.
So.
But I guess it's good to hear.
But it's also good for me to work on it. Yeah, it was that. It was like training that process as well.
Sarah, what do you think about going into it? And then what did it feel like while you're in it? Were you excited, nervous, like whatever, it's something I like need to do? Or like, how was your perspective about taking it?
I mean, I was really eager to learn and to get feedback on how I do as a coach.
So it makes you a great coach.
Well, see, okay, I feel like it's always been sugar-coated. And it was just nice to hear the good as well as what can be worked on. Because I feel like for such a long time I've kind of been coddled a little bit, or maybe they don't see the full, you know, session or full class that I'll do, and I have a lot of self-doubt. So getting feedback from people who do this for a living, coaches, was intimidating, but I feel like I will grow a lot from it.
Yeah.
It was, we were definitely put under a microscope, both with our coaching and with the way that we move. And I didn't think, I thought that I was a decent mover.
You were a decent mover.
You know, I don't know. Well, when I was there, I was sweating. I was every little inch, as Adam was saying.
Your sweat content doesn't mean anything about your movement quality.
Well,
just means medically you have maybe something going on. What did you feel? Okay, so when you each got feedback, I'm just curious because I, again, went through it. Did you feel most like when you got feedback about how you coached or how you moved? Like if there was a part of your pride that maybe got hit, maybe not at all, did you find yourself kind of internally being like, damn it, like I thought I was a better coach than that, or I thought I moved better than that? Like what hurt your ego maybe the most, if anything?
I don't think it hurt my ego. I was just like, I want to do this better. Like I was like, I just want you to be like, that's awesome.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Okay.
That's what makes me feel good.
And they weren't there to do that, right? Like they weren't there to be like just fluff you the whole time.
No.
You know? So they were there to like
Rory's great. I mean,
tear
shout
you
out to Rory.
down.
She's like, oh, cool, you're smart or new or a tenure. Like that was not good.
Yeah.
Here's how I can be better. And like I love how direct she is on that.
Very much
so. I had her in my L2 as well.
Yeah. Nothing really like hurt my ego. It wasn't that. It was like I knew why I was there, right? Like I'm there to get better. I'm there to have somebody be like, that's good, but you know, like we can be better. We can always strive to be better. So that was really nice. Again, it was like you said, being put under a microscope and somebody being like, use less words. That cue didn't work, so do something else, right? Like try to find a new cue and or use a tactile cue, you know. And like I touch people for a living, so that was my jam.
And sometimes not for a living.
And not, you know.
Yeah,
you know.
That reminds you, I got to Venmo you.
Please do.
Okay.
But there was a point where actually I think it was my first.
Sarah.
Yeah, I was like, it was my first like session of like coaching somebody, and my red shirt was like tactile cues only, and I was like, perfect, like I fucking got this.
You're like you just lob me up.
Yeah, and I was like, I literally was like, I touch people for a living, like this is gonna be great. And I just like was like, do this, you know, touch.
I've been touching people since '93.
Just nailing it. These little fingies. And he was like, great. Like, that was an easy one. But when I had to give verbal cues, I was like, they're used 4 words. And I was like,
oh, God.
He's like, how about 25 words?
Yeah. By 4, do you happen to mean
Can I just
32?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Okay,
there.
so what were maybe some of the takeaways you didn't expect to get that you either really appreciated or maybe at first were kind of like, ugh, that really kind of grinds my gears, but like, good to know. Like, did you at least come into something thinking you're a little more like, I at least got this part. I'm excited to learn the other part, and come to find out it's maybe flopped.
I was more nervous about like the coaching part, which was a little not disheartening by any means, but it's just like when you were in front of the class or in front of the people that you were coaching, you talk differently, and like move differently and do all these things. And I was like, at one point I just like stopped and I was like, this is not how I would coach this.
So you're shaking your head too, and we were talking about it. I actually asked one of them, because we had, I think, maybe like 17 people or 18, so we only had 2 red shirts. And I just said it was like my turn to do the deadlift or something. I was like, hey, can I run this really like how I run this? Because I feel like people really just pretend to be a different character because they feel like they should be, because now they're being, paid attention to. She's like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, awesome. I was like, brownies or cookies? It was a question of the day to the class. And they're like, what? And then I was like, tacos or burritos, quick. And I was like, boom, you. And then like to see them kind of like, oh, like even I think they appreciated it, because now like you were saying, oh, I thought I was a decent mover. So, you're nervous about coaching. You're still being the person that he has to maybe coach and correct you in real time. But it's funny you mentioned that, because you catch yourself, you're like, hello, my name is Adam.
Yeah,
Today I will be coaching. You're like, what am I doing? This
that.
is not who I am.
I was like, oh, what the fuck? This
You were
is not
shaking
me.
your head.
Yeah, exactly that. I just felt like my confidence was not, and I'm not very confident, but my confidence was a little bit lower at that moment when I was coaching in front of these new people. I was like, I don't know these people, and I'm being scrutinized by this coach and
Does that
by
make you
them
more
too,
nervous?
by these other coaches.
Yep.
It wasn't just the red shirts, it was the other coaches in the room that I'm like, oh my gosh.
Does that make you more nervous or more comfortable when you're at least in a setting of people you don't know?
More nervous, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like people could have I have nothing to lose. I don't know you. I might not see you again. Like YOLO.
A little bit of both, Some of me was like, I'm never going to see these people again in my life, right?
Yeah.
But then part of me was like, I'm being scrutinized the whole time by these coaches who they may not cue it this way, or they may like talk differently, or may not understand some of the words that I use, So
If they're, just because this is so recent to both your experiences in the past week, if there happen to be any coaches who are debating to do their L2, and honestly, I mean, I think I just saw like maybe it was Chandler Smith, maybe I'm quoting this wrong, but a few like top athletes actually just did their L1. And even though, yes, it's a decent amount of money, I encourage anyone who's really just passionate about exercise and CrossFit and the thing they love to do, at least take your L1, even if you have no ambition to coach, because it's such a fun experience to really refine the movements and to like learn what it is and to be around like-minded people. You're younger, your friend sitting next to you at the desk, because you both have to be in school as a 7th grader, but as you get older, you really can choose like, what do I want to find my passion about? And you get to be around these like-minded people. So that's why I think part of that drinking the Kool-Aid for me is like, you're here too, and you chose to be here, and you paid that. Isn't this so fun? Oh my God, CrossFit. Or like learning. But what would you kind of say for those who are maybe on the fence about doing their L1 or their L2 to maybe help push them over the edge to be like, all right, I'm going to do it? Because it is sometimes, some people don't do things because they're afraid to fail, and some are afraid to succeed, and all of a sudden they just don't do anything. So would you have any, as coaches who've already been coaches and are great coaches and are smart and already eager to continuously learn, you're not like done, you still did it, and it sounds like it went even better than you anticipated. Is there any kind of words of encouragement that you'd give out to anyone that's like, I know I should, or
I mean, you have nothing to lose. And yeah, okay, there's a price tag on it, but anything that's education's worth it. And you're going to spend that in a few weekends going out, right? So why not take a weekend, learn some things,
and if you're an
you'll be able
affiliate
to
owner,
apply it
you
to,
now need to have an L2.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Is that?
Yeah, they changed that
I think it's
with the
smart.
generous
Good thing,
increase
though.
of affiliate pricing.
Good
I
thing.
actually
Yeah.
really like that.
I also think and I haven't taken my L1 in, again, 13, 14, how many years? 17 years, something like that.
I went from 13 to 17.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know. It's been some years.
yeah.
But it seems like they've refined things, right? Like they took a lot of criticism, especially early on,
Yeah.
where it was like you're just throwing people through this ringer and then allowing them to run a gym or coach or do this, where they like had 10 hours of training, you know, and now it's like, oh, you actually need to like know your shit.
Well, they're still humans too. They're still coaches too. Like and it sounds like they did the same thing, is they rotate different lectures and lessons, and they are actually supposed to be judging themselves as well and give feedback, because, you know, if they don't ever refine their presentation and their coaching, and they're the leaders to then develop better coaches than us, they need to always be evolving as well. So that's really cool. Well, that was awesome. That was the first segment. How'd that go? I think we did well.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. So we're going to start a new segment, and I'm going to call it Knock It the Fuck Off, or how I like to call it, Knock It the Fuck Off. And if you didn't hear that, guys, there was a change in tone. And this is a new segment we're going to start. I just want to throw it in. And what is one thing that you think athletes as a coach, and just maybe being a fellow athlete, maybe at open gym or something, that you think people should knock it the fuck off doing? Maybe kind of like your pet peeve.
Ooh. I think the one that I have the most is people putting their barbells away and just dropping them. And that annoys the shit out of me more than anything, where they drop it into the thing and you can hear it audibly, like just like smash the bearings inside the barbell, which they're there to spin. And when you do that, it makes them not spin so well.
Yeah, so if any of you guys start to notice, a lot of the holes don't, because I actually found this company that makes padded cushions for the inside specifically of those vertical rack holders.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, like, what do we have, 27, because there's 3x9s, and then I think I got like 24, so there's like 5 of them that still make that noise. Yeah, like, respect the equipment. Start to look at the end. They get a little dinged up, and it impacts how the bar spins and all that. And put it away, like, I don't know, hypothetically, like you bought it and own it.
Yeah, that's my big one lately.
So it's funny, that segues into mine.
Wonderful.
I'll give you extra time to think here, Sarah.
Oh, please.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm in general very hypersensitive, I think, as I'm getting older, to like noise. And just like if it should or shouldn't be in the context of like that setting. And so when people just throw plates like Frisbees and let it drop, I think I'm going to rewrite the waiver in very small print so no one notices that I can cause physical harm to you if you do that. And then you can't sue me. It is so loud and unnecessary and disruptive and damaging to the plates. And I swear to God, I can almost tell when you started your CrossFit journey by how you treat equipment and what you do, like behaviorally. Like just tossing 45s and 10s and wonder why the 10s are cracking and all that. Because you don't want to bend over 2 inches to load it on, even though you're about to do a bunch of deadlifts at 255, you know? Like, just set shit down, people. Like, I know this seems like my playful tone, but knock it the fuck off. Or I like to say, knock it the fuck off. Yeah, so I don't need to like you gently putting it down, but like maybe drop it vertically, and then sometimes I'll put like my toe on it and like ease it down, or I'll lean it into the rig or something. But stop throwing fucking plates.
He's staring right at me. I
You
think
animals. Yeah.
It's me.
No.
It's me.
Sarah, what about you?
This is a little different. I feel like I'm on
Mix it up.
stop being stubborn. Listen to your coaches.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. That was something
This
else
is a
I had.
daily frustration I
Yeah.
have.
Ooh, yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like there's some recent.
I think it can lead into, I don't know where we're at with athlete IQ, but
This may. Spoiler alert.
sorry.
We're still in this segment. No,
Sorry.
that's great. So let's go into it. I got this question from someone, and I loved it. So thank you to the person who sent this in. So this is going to be the context is around athlete IQ. And can you talk about what this is and how to improve it? And kind of that was a quote, and I kind of paraphrase a little bit more. It was like, can you have an IQ in one area of fitness but not in others? Maybe example, weightlifting or positional awareness or approach to workouts and things like that. I love this topic. This could be like multiple episodes, so we'll try to attack this here because I think we pretty much covered what I wanted to cover with the L2 and hear you guys' feedback and input on that. I mean, so essentially, if you take like an IQ test in general, it's supposed to gauge how well someone can use information and logic to answer questions or make predictions. And if it sounded like I read that from the internet, it's because I did. So let's now take IQ and add that in more specific context to what we do. So kind of what is athlete IQ? And then sometimes you also hear athlete awareness. Is it same? Is it different? To simply put it, if you're trying to understand and gauge things in real time, you need to have a certain level of data and information, and then you need to know when and when not to essentially do certain things to kind of result in the best outcome of whatever you're doing. So for example, weightlifting is, I think, relatively easy one to start with. Like if I think people need to have good ideas and actual numbers of like top end strength, 1s, 3s, 5s, because it gives you an idea of what you're physically capable of moving through and then what you're also personally willing to go through positionally, and the fear of being under a heavy weight and all that. And if you see 70% on a board, then we always try as best we can verbally to be like, it should feel roughly like this and that, and RPE. And sometimes I have a hard time with RPE on weightlifting. And just knowing that data, right? And so the difference even between, I really loved it, Andy Robertson, I know we shout out to her a lot, but she's a great human. She, I think, made a comment into something I wrote weeks ago about training max versus lifetime max. And low-hanging fruit IQ is like, if you're 42 and you're like, back in high school, my lifetime was 500 on the deadlift. I'm like, yep. And like, I just stand there and wait for them to like pick up the I don't know, the clues I'm trying to drop. And they're like, what? I'm like, that was forever ago. You can probably do 350 now, or you're going to push through that 500, but it's horrible positioning that doesn't translate over. And that's another thing we can get into weightlifting. I think IQ is how did it go? Did it look smooth, or did you grind it out? Because if you grind it out, I think a lot of people take their percentages off their grind out number and not like, we'll take videos of ourselves and watch things. I'll be like, ooh, that was heavy, but my knees look good on that squat at 315. I started to get a little pushy through my low back and mid back at 335. I hit it, great, like it would count in a comp, but it may not be smart to now take my numbers off that. I'm clearly lacking and compensating somewhere. So it's knowing how to assess things like that. I don't know if you guys have any feedback, at least on the strength portion or weights like that, and we can just kind of riff back and forth. We don't need to go through gymnastics and metcons. We can just talk about it all.
Sure. I kind of go like, one, how do I feel that day? Right? Like that's, I think, a really great metric. Kind of like, you like, I wasn't feeling great today. I didn't want to train today. But also like if I have a recent, max where I'm like, oh, I hit this 3 weeks ago. I know that I'm, able to do that. I may be like 90% of that is like my working max, because.
And that's a training max essentially for those who
like
normally
understand like that's kind of how I work it anyway, just because I did some juggernaut stuff back in the day with Chad Wesley Smith training, and it was just like, oh, like your training max is actually like 90% of your like, I hit this on a day where I was fresh and I was coming in to do that work, instead of being like, I've also trained all week and now what could I normally hit?
Yeah, like if you hit 500 deadlift, but now you're supposed to be doing this gruesome deadlift session, but on a Friday after a lot of volume, it's like take it off of 450.
Yeah.
And like, by the way, guys, that's still a lot of weight, and you're going to move better and cleaner.
Yeah. And reduce likelihood of injury or possibility of injury.
CNS overload, all these things.
Absolutely. So I always I'm like, live to fight another day, right? Like, don't try to be like, you know what? I'm going to work off my 500 max. Ooh, it feels like shit, but I'm still going to do it because that's what I'm supposed to do. It's like, listen to your body.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think you can kind of go a notch above on really assessing this. Like for anyone who's low bar back squatted even, I think a lot of people, and some may because they're like, something with my body feels better that way. Everything else feels dangerous or wrong, or, and then we can kind of probably pick that apart with human movement quality and mobility and all that. But okay, low bar back squat, yep, you can traditionally get a little bit more than a high bar or more vertical upright. But it also doesn't really translate positionally to anything else that we do in CrossFit as much. And so some of that IQ is, oh, I never thought about that. Now I'm aware of that. I'm going to go through what feels like taking a step back part of training, which is I'm going to adjust the high bar, which if you've ever done that, you feel like you've never squatted in your life. But you're now upright. You receive that snatch better. It translates more to the front squat, the overhead squat. You're clean. And so it's sometimes just being aware of that and making those decisions to set yourself up for better, smarter, consistent, at least translated positional things you're going to see yourself into on this day-to-day, methodology that we do. You were probably referencing something. I have an idea of what you're talking about in a recent longer gruesome body weight running test.
That amongst like several other things.
Should we kind of touch upon this? Because I think this is because I think sometimes the IQ is also knowing how to combat your ego and what you think the stimulus is. That's also another thing. Do you understand the stimulus of the workout? Do you understand the time domain? When someone says, hey, this should feel like cardio compared to a gas tank workout, you're just like emptying it out, yet everything feels the same type of exhaustion to you. That is, to me, demonstrating, hey, you're a good athlete or you're strong, but you don't seem to possess athlete IQ. Like, I'm blatantly saying this should feel like red, but you're like, it feels like yellow. Like, then you're not doing this right. Like, so it's like Murph, and this is not a sentence based upon the meaning behind Murph and the day of everything, but just simply from a training volume standpoint, it's a gruesome workout. And like, not a lot of people should be RXing it. But it's very interesting when people make certain decisions on what to RX and what not to, or they like RX a scaled variation of a movement. I'm like, why don't you just do the scaled thing cleaner and faster, raise the intensity level up, get you fitter that way instead of grinding out weird things with like a weight vest or a style of pull up or something like that, So yeah, did you have any general thoughts on?
Where do I start? No, I mean, of course, I think that we were talking about, okay, maybe we should put a standard on what makes you qualify to RX this, because like you said, it's a lot of volume. How often are we doing even 100 push-ups in a workout? Not often. And even when there's 100, form starts to fall apart around 80 for people, maybe even earlier. So to do 200 then with more than your body weight, that's the part that usually seems to make people the most sore.
And I think we sometimes forget, because I'm going to play a character. This is the client. You're like, maybe it's best for you not to. But that's what everyone else is doing. Or this workout seems now more important because of the day and the significance. And I'm like, well, I don't think the service community really actually is worried about your weight vest or this and that. This is a way bigger meaning and an appreciation to why we're even here doing this in the first place. And when you want to quit and when it gets hard, you're not. But of the standard and the version that you're doing. And some people I kudos this time around because they're like, I adjusted it appropriately. I still wanted to die, but not actually like bad form death. I could now actually like, I'm not grabbing my elbow for the next days after. Their quality of movement looked good. I'm like, great job. Like, you were there for the reason that you knew you were there for. It meant a lot to you. You still suffered, but like aerobically and all that, not actually like, oh, I need to go see like a doctor after. Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of also like the IQ could be an example of, we're watching the semifinals and that first workout is 5 rounds of 800-meter run, 10 clean and jerks at 185, 125. And I'm seeing a lot of these people wanting to like sprint out ahead and like snipe the Tias and the Haley Adams and, and the Adlers and all that. And this one girl who I didn't even know the name of, like she came in, was like round 1 sprinting around Tia, because the way they're set up is you run out, but then you have to run to your station and it's a box. You're kind of facing each other. So some people start on the run faster, but have to go to the barbell longer. And she was the last one to finish that heat. First one in from the run, last one there. And Amanda Barnhart, who's not like, she was like push pressing this weight, but she was like the last one out in the run and then caught up 4 people after the second run and then 4 more and still like middle of the pack. But I was like, good for her for a running workout, with 5 800s in there. Yeah. And she paced that perfectly. So it's understanding Though I can, it doesn't mean I should. Oh, my max muscle ups is 10 in a row. Okay, this is 4 rounds of 500-meter row, 10 ring muscle ups, and now, let's say like 10 deadlifts at 225/155. Are you aware that just because you can do 10, it's really 40? And rowing has grip, deadlift has grip, there's interference. Or you do understand what interference is? How should you pace this? Maybe it should go like 4-3-3, 5-3-2. You know what I mean? Like,
we have people in the gym that like have no other gear. Like they just are like, I'm sprinting no matter what it is. It could be Murph. They're just like, I'm,
let's
weight
go.
vest.
Full
We're
send.
going full send. I'm gonna max out every single set of pull-ups. I'm gonna try to do as many push-ups as possible. I'm gonna redline from the get-go. And
spoiler alert, that's not how you get better.
right.
Yeah.
And
okay, just checking.
they just like need to learn how to like game the system, right? Like that's what this is. It's I learned this actually my very first comp was in Kansas City. It was the Halloween Throwdown, and we just like full send on some workout, and it destroyed us. And then I think like later on that week, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that workout again. I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna pace myself. I'm gonna like think about this movement a little bit differently. And I think I did 2 or 3 extra rounds where I was like, oh, that was a fucking mistake. Like going out, balls deep into it. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you rather feel good for 2 minutes and then die, or would you rather feel good, well, relatively good the entire time?
the whole time.
Feel strong,
Absolutely.
finish
So,
with more work.
Well, today in
being done, or
comp training,
faster?
we had kind of a mini mashup of some of the semifinals workouts. So we did 3 rounds of 400-meter run, 10 clean and jerks at 155/105, then a 3-minute rest, and then 3 rounds of 100 double unders, 20 toes to bar, 10 front squats, which is the same rep scheme as what they did, but 185/125 instead of 225/155. And by the way, that was 5 rounds they did. And we were dying. On the first run, I kind of trailed Stacy and Cassie. I was like right on them. And then I kind of just by the nature of how I was running, I passed them. I wasn't trying to. So I was the first one in from the run, but their cycle rate on the barbell was slightly faster. And those are my 2 non-ideal, like barbell cycling with some running. I'm not good at. So I just said, okay, you're pretty good at like CrossFit. You got toes to bar. You can keep grinding things out if you need to. This is for time, both parts, not individually scored. So I was like 3rd or 4th after the first part, and I ended up finishing first because I knew set yourself up. But I think that's hard for people to like, for them, it probably feels like I'm taking a chance. What do you mean go slower? You always say intensity is king and go faster, and I'm trying to win, but it's like the difference between a 10-minute workout of rowing. It's not who rows the hardest for 10 minutes necessarily. It's like who can almost row the smartest for 9 in order to like burn it down in that last minute. And that probably feels hard to do, but part of that IQ is you need to try things out to understand, oh, I learned something.
Right.
I can now assess the situation in real time faster and smarter.
Yeah, it's the give 70% the whole time versus 100 and then have to drop to 50, right? Like, and then just get smoked for the last 9 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I luckily learned that kind of early on in the CrossFit world where I was like, oh, yeah, doing less actually can maintain a pace for longer.
I think we all have probably a memory too when you learn that, because you get slapped in the face by a workout. You're like, oh my God, I mispaced this so much.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of, again, like even higher notch, I don't expect people to know like energy system transitions and all that, but I mean, you're listening to, I think the West Coast Classic, Chris Henshaw was on there, and he was explaining how it takes sometimes 20-30 seconds for energy systems to switch. So you have this kind of big full body explosive power movement like the clean and jerk, and then it's like, then they put the barbell down, they go running, and they're like, oh, I'm good, and then they kind of like slow down a little bit, and they're like, oh God, I'm not doing well, and then they're able to like mellow back out and adjust to the fact, oh, I'm running at a sustainable pace. And then they all could kind of come in pretty well for those who paced it well.
Right.
You watch interviews of like short sprinter athletes, they look like they run through the 100-meter like Usain Bolt super fast. And then you catch them on an interview later, they're like, because it takes a second. So are you even aware that like, hey, you're about to feel an extra delayed effect thing. So it's almost like, hey, because I can do 100% of something, maybe I should just keep chipping away at 50% rep schemes at a time or things like that. Not every workout should feel like this red line, I'm dying thing. You're doing it wrong if you're completely smashing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Got anything feedback on that?
No, really just know your strengths, know your limitations, and play to what you're good at, like you did today, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of brought up comp training. This is something that in a survey we got a while back. I think this has a lot of different narratives to this. And the kind of thing I want to talk about is comp training class, the one we specifically have, and also maybe what it's like everywhere else versus affiliate classes. And I feel like sometimes, and it wasn't like horrible feedback, but I think if you don't understand it, to a lot of people, it probably looks from the outside like, oh, is this like a special group or a cool kids group or this and that, or it's making me feel less than, there's a lot of things there. And I hate to hear that, and it wasn't a majority by any means, but it was a few. And I think I remember even when I started and you kind of saw the people like, who could do all the cool stuff. You're like, oh, I never really liked the phrase, you make me feel anyway. It's like something happened and it's creating a feeling, but it's like, that's a you thing. And I would say like, look within, unless the person or persons are blatantly going out of their way to try to cause harm and do something mean and rude and whatever it is. But I think it might be good to give a little context to that, which may give a better definition for those who are listening who have curiosities about it. And then maybe we can break down really who we think should be going, not necessarily like individual naming people, but like the avatar of that athlete who would benefit from it and who would probably be wrecked by it. Mm-hmm. So when we were at the gym Trish and I were at before, we were the gym who hosted the Cascade Classic. Pretty big competition here. Chandler Smith was there when he was starting up, Sam Quant, all that. So we had to do a lot of the test workouts because we did all the programming. The owner of the gym, I was usually always the test dummy. I was participating multiple times in different teams each year and then helped judge and run on individuals. And we were literally like, we are going to do a competition. We need time to practice being on the worm or this and that. Let's meet up before class. And so it kind of organically evolved into a comp training for a competition that we were about to do. Mm-hmm. And I think whenever you're around groups of people they end up just bonding with and having a relationship with, it's like, yeah, why don't you grab the coffee this time, Chris, and why don't you get it, Sarah, why don't you get it? It's like, sure. And it probably looks like this thing more than it was initially intended to be. It was just, we need some time to practice this thing that we consciously, soberly signed up for, paid money to. We're aware of the movements, we're aware of the standards, and we still said yes. Now let's train it. Just like you sign up for a test, you're going to probably study. And so it kind of rolled over to that a little bit, not even right away, by the way, when push started, because then we started to do some local comps. It was like 4 of us, it was like 6 of us, and we would practice some of the movements and the standards, yada, yada. And now as we've grown, it's evolved, and we want to kind of give just like partner workouts for those who are like, I like working with people, and we don't do that during the weekday, and it's also kind of social, and I love that, and I never get to see that person because I'm the nighttime person. And push lifting, I love only lifting, fuck burpees. It's just like another class for another group of people who have a different mindset and desire to do things. It by no means is intended to be like, we're better than. That's never the intention, by the way, of like any class there. We wanted to take a hot yoga class, but we missed a certain time on top of the hill. And Trish looked up, oh, there's one at like 8 p.m. And it was essentially like level 2 or like advanced. We're like, what does this mean? The definition was, you should be able to do X, blah, 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 Y, and Z. You have X amount of experience. And I was like, oh, that's not us. And that was it. It didn't offend me. It was just like, you described who should be there. That means you're going to do these things. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't put you in the position to have to now watch out for me liability-wise and all that.
Well, and I think comp training at Push it's a class where there is no coaching, right? We're not standing around being like, do this better or do that better. It is very like, hey, we're here to train. Get in, get warmed up. You know your limitations, and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
And so there is no like, oh, you can only back squat 135 and we're going to work on back squats today. No, it's like you have to be able to hit these numbers and do these things. And it's not like, oh, you're not good enough to be here. It's that you still need some work on things to be a part of this. It's not even trying to like, put a dividing line in between things.
No.
It's just like this is
Like we're almost looking out for you in a certain
yeah,
way.
like honestly, you're not getting coaching, you're not getting any really feedback. It's like we're just there to like work hard and suffer
and you,
together.
yeah,
And for those that need that, like you will progress in the program that Aiden designs. Like,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
will get that from our day-to-day classes, and by the end of the week, how do you normally feel, right?
Mhm.
Can you handle 3 workouts on a Saturday in addition to what you've done all week?
Yeah.
You know, we're already all on Fridays talking about like, oh man, I'm so sore from this week.
yeah,
And then to come in on Saturday, maybe at a different time than you're used to training without coaching, can you do all that volume?
Mhm.
And it is higher skill. So yeah, I don't know. I do think that you need the awareness there with your athlete IQ that we just talked
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah.
nice,
Um,
nice callback.
Yeah, knowing your strengths and your limitations. So
Yeah, I mean, and I would say if you're like, okay, that's starting to make more sense, can you put maybe like objective measurements? It's harder to, like, I can't just say I'm going to try to, and I'm going to say this is not here to offend anyone, so like fucking chill out a little bit, please. I'm not going to say, oh, at Push we're semifinals athletes only. Well, we don't have any,
Mhm.
right? Well, Judy and Adrian, shout out, you know.
hell
But
yeah.
they're also like, there's a lot of people who could take it, but they're like, I don't care. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, awesome. In fact, thank you, right? Like you're having a great time. You're an amazing athlete. You want to do something else with your Saturday. There's
Even
No.
even the, like we just did Slate comp like
Mhm.
how many weeks ago, and a lot of the people that competed at Slate don't come to comp training.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, and let's kind of maybe call a spade a spade. It is kind of what it sounds like. You're going to eventually want to sign up for a comp. You probably drink the Kool-Aid a little bit more. If I start calling out maybe CrossFitters' names, you probably have heard of them, and you're like, oh, you also watch it on YouTube too. Like, you're probably just into it just a little bit more. And it's almost sometimes it's like, hey, you're pretty beat up and damaged. You should not come today, even though you can. It's like sometimes it's the people we got to put a leash on even more because they're like volume or like this is my life, and I'm like totally get it. It is mine too. I was like, but you today were like, I can do it. That looks really hard, and I'm really beat up, so I'm not going to. It is not just like another time slot for a class. It's like no, we are training at a higher intensity. We are doing more volume. I would say if you scale most workouts in the week, this is not for you. You mentioned the whole like the phrase "good enough." That's a very sensitive phrase because it's like, as a person, it's like no. That's not what
Yeah.
we mean.
It's proficiency.
It's like you literally can't do some of the stuff. yet.
Proficiency of movement, right? Like, can you snatch and clean and jerk without somebody being like, I need to give you 17 cues to make sure that doesn't look like a dumpster fire, you know? So,
And I probably, this is how I approach things. I don't know about you guys. I would, if you're still listening, like, okay, can you give me more specific example? 2 things come to mind is if you look at even a lot of the traditional benchmark workouts in CrossFit, even though like we've far surpassed those strength ratios now, it's like, God, these games athletes in semifinals, they're clean and jerking and snatching ridiculous weight. Grace, it's like 135/95, 30 clean and jerks. If the traditional 95/65 for like thrusters, snatching, Isabel, 30 snatches, 135/95, and frankly, they should be power, probably not even squat. Like, if these are like, dear Lord, that seems like a lot on a complex movement with a load I can't move, then this should give you some indication here. I would say I still will look at an athlete's skills. What are your double unders? What are your toes to bar? What are your pistols? Can you do chest to bar? What is your hands? Like, because these are the things that most likely I would imagine if we get a notice for a workout that's like a local comp, we'll probably go to those and then the weights. Because there's a lot of strong just MFers out there who can't do pull-ups. So strength is still needing to be there to probably like play in the sandbox, but we can at least be like, hey, all right, if you can't do that, put on 70%. We can still get a stimulus from you that we're also about to go through in this workout. Like if it wasn't 155 today for us, you could do 135. And if we're still doing singles with like heavy breathing, we're probably experiencing the same exposure fitness-wise, metabolically. But if we can't do a lot of the gymnastics, the reality is if you sign up for a local comp, that's what you're going to see. You're probably going to see bar muscle ups. And if you don't see bar muscle ups even for scaled nowadays, I'm starting to see like traditional pull-ups as that option. It's not just pull-ups and then ring rows as scaled anymore like it used to be. Still sometimes, but not as much. So I'd say you need to show, like you said, the proficiency and the capacity. You need to not always need to be coached, essentially. You need to possess an athlete IQ. Maybe drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, but it doesn't like have to be, obviously. But like you're willing to show up at 10:30 on a Saturday to train for an hour and a half when you probably could argue you want to do your weekend with something else.
Yeah.
And essentially kind of not be a liability in a way. I think like we want you to feel safe. We want you to push it, but we also look at these athletes, you interview them after, they're beat to shit. Like it's, this is not expressing health on the spectrum of their training capacity and volume, right? Like they always take a lot of time off after that. And so it's an opportunity to practice for competitions coming up. I think we have a pretty good group that does that. And you need to, you RX pretty probably much most in all the workouts in the normal classes. This should not be like your second class in the week. Oh, I came on a Tuesday and I don't really work out. And by the way, slather me in this volume on a Saturday. I don't know if you have input on stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have any input in general on metrics of like, I'm sometimes reluctant to be like probably a quarterfinals athlete in general, especially now with the 75% standard. But I also know that some people maybe didn't quite make it because of their aerobic capacity, but definitely can do like a muscle up or a dumbbell snatch. But like, there's always going to be the whole like, yeah, but maybe you could. And I know it seems unfair to the outside, but sometimes we have to actually assess who it is. But it's definitely not supposed to make you feel less than.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's not supposed to do anything of that sort. It's not supposed to be a cool kids club. It's simply like, I can't do advanced yoga because I don't regularly practice it and I'm not amazing at it. And it does not hurt my ego. And that part's probably more, I'm going to say, a you thing than like an us thing. At least now, because we're trying our best to articulate the intention behind it is not to cause any ill feeling or anything like that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Was that decent?
Yeah, again, it's not like an us versus anybody thing.
No.
It's just it's a class where honestly, I like as you're talking about it, I'm like, there are a lot of people that actually go to just general population classes and could be in comp training that choose not to.
Yeah.
Because they're like, honestly, I just don't want to get the shit kicked out of me for an hour and a half.
And I don't blame you. Like this one wrecked me. And sometimes, let's be honest, there are people in the past and sometimes even with different injuries now who probably don't need to be coming to comp train. Right? But it's probably hard because like those are my friends or my boyfriend's going or my this and that, like and like that's where I think probably it feels personal. We're not trying to sometimes, I don't know, selfishly don't put us in that position to have to maybe say yes to one but no to the other, like because I probably take it over serious in the sense of like, hey, I'm here to train, I want to work out. I'd ideally not like to adjust things 19 different ways. I'm trying to match what you're going to see on the competition floor. You can't go to your judge at a local gym and be like, I have a hard time with this, can I do something different? It's like, no, you signed up, you knew what was coming, you know what I mean? Like, so we can't take it that serious every single time because it is just a Saturday and we're not doing the comp yet. But I would get into that mindset that if you see a comp, you see the standards, you see the weights, you say, yep, here's still my money, I want to do this, and go through like the panic poops and the nervous eating during and all that, like then and you can express that and you have free time on a Saturday, then like, yeah, this is probably for you.
I think also in addition, a lot of the people that do show up for comp training, that like they're doing all the recovery protocols. So they're not coming in, for the most part, I can't say never, but they're not coming in hungover. They're probably not going to go and get really drunk that night either.
Yeah.
Because they know that they need to recover. They need to come in fresh and ready to hit a good workout. So are you doing those things too? I think that that's really important to think about.
I mean,
it's a lifestyle.
That's probably a good way. It's like you're probably never going to catch me out on a Friday night drinking with you. It's not because I don't like you. You know what I mean? Like even when we go to these social events, we're not the last ones to close it down. And I like milk one cider, and I don't even really like that, to be honest. I'm more of a bourbon guy. I'm getting tired of these breweries, but like I love the group, and everyone in the Northwest does it. Yeah. But I'm actually thinking I don't want to have this impact my 5th or 6th training day. And if instinctively you're probably like, oh my God, chill out, Aiden. Hey, like, okay, I get it. Like, but that's also my point. It's probably you don't need it, even if you could physically express it. You're like, yeah, I get it. Like, go hike, go be with your family, like, relax, go for a longer walk, recover. Like, I agree. You could, probably don't need it. And if you're like, am I close? Am I this and that? I would start looking at any of our coaches can kind of look and have that conversation with you if you're willing for honest feedback.
Yeah, for sure.
We can look at your numbers. some test metrics, some aerobic gymnastics and lifting. And we can kind of give you some feedback on that. But I would say if you truly are doing everything as best as you can, or it's getting better, and we kind of last podcast talked about that pyramid, and you're showing up, I don't know, 4 days a week of the Monday through Friday, we can start having that conversation about kind of that volume on top of. But if you're still having a hard time doing the foundational parts of the pyramid, you scale decently, you're like, I'm fighting this like achy fill in the blank. I just don't know if you need it more than anything else. But I really wanted to clarify it is not supposed to be like a separation of people, of like better or worse than. It's just like,
I've never, I don't know, maybe because I've always
I don't see it that
been
way.
at that level. I've
Yeah.
never seen it that way. I'm sad that some people feel that way.
Yeah. Like if I dropped into Invictus to their comp training class, I may not meet the standard. You know what I mean? Like who knows? I don't know how they set it up. Each gym will be different. Like local gyms in Seattle, you know, like we're pretty competitive. I think we're one of the more competitive ones, and have demonstrated that pretty well, especially recently. So maybe we might have the higher how many is there? Standard of comp training compared to someone else. But like I would not want to go into a gym with Chandler Smith and like partner up with him. I'd like to maybe just go through that experience and partner up with someone else and to be like, man, I'm that much slower than him.
Yeah.
Good to know officially.
Yep.
Right. But I think it is dependent upon each gym and kind of ask how they define it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of our intention is it's a time to practice these things and stimulus of workouts you may see on a weekend and volume. And then if there's actually one we signed up for, we'll actually go through and run through those workouts. Yeah.
I'm sure
Cool.
at some point you could set metrics, right? Like
Yeah.
be like, okay, you need to be able to.
At least 30 bar muscle ups unbroken,
Absolutely.
things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The standard
So
stuff.
zero
No.
people could be in this class now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, so I would say look at your skills in gymnastics is my kind of preferred bias, especially as a coach. Because if you can chest to bar, you can strict pull up, you can maybe pistol, you can, you move you well. You probably also have good shapes on the more advanced lifts.
Yeah.
And we can always just spend time getting stronger. And then now I know you're probably less of a potential liability for yourself or for us. Like you mentioned, we don't like coach. We'll give feedback like,
Yeah.
hey, good job. Stop going around your knees in the clean.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
How many times have you heard that?
Yeah, just once
From
recently
one-
in
from
the past
one-
hour from you. Yeah. Any last thoughts? I know we got to sign off in about 42 seconds, but
We love you all.
we do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Great job, guys. You guys are great. Honestly, love the community. Proud of you too. I mean, you guys are fucking smart and great coaches. All we get is positive feedback. And so, like, it's cool to always just want to be better ourselves,
Yeah.
like.
this is a great community. So which
It
is
is.
awesome.
No, you guys are awesome. You, the listeners, are awesome. And until next time, fitness is neat. Bye.